All right, Steve, we're talking about the national debt. The national debt just crossed $21 trillion. At the same time, interest rates are going up. What kind of impact is that going to have on paying down the debt?
You know, when I first came to Washington back in the early 1980s, the debt was $2 trillion, and now we're at $21 trillion. I mean, that's frightening, isn't it? And I haven't been there that long. I'm not that old. So, you know, we've seen a rocketing of our debt, especially in the last 10 years, where, you know, Obama took the debt from 10 to 20 trillion. We've got to stop this borrowing $1 trillion every year. And you asked the right question, you know, what is the threat of having this gigantic national debt? And as I see it, the biggest problem is what happens if these record low interest rates start to rise, because the federal government is the biggest borrower in the world. So it's going to have to pay huge interest rate costs. So we would be paying more for our debt than we would for our national defense, for Medicare, for Social Security, all of these other programs. That is a big, big problem going forward if we see even interest rates going to their normal level. And incidentally, as you know, interest rates just in the last year or so have risen by a percentage point. So if that continues, we're going to be a whole lot of trouble.
You brought up a good point there. If the debt payments continue to rise and rise, do you see them getting bigger than major programs like the military?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the most important thing is in controlling the debt is to grow the economy. That's the advice that I gave to Donald Trump. Get the economy bigger so that, you know, if we have a bigger growing economy, then we can afford to pay the debt. And we're achieving that. So that's a good thing, that the economy is doing very well. But at the same time, you need to control your expenditures. And I hate to tell you this, but neither party, nor the Republicans or the Democrats, want to control expenditures. It's a bipartisan spending spree that's going on in Washington. And until that stops, we're going to see trillion-dollar deficits for as far as the eye can see.
Steve, you're talking about the interest rates. If the interest rate goes up 1/4 point, or let's say 1/2 point, what kind of impact will that have on paying off the debt?
So every 1 percentage point increase in the interest rate increases the debt payments over a decade by $1 trillion. So we're talking about really large numbers. And if you get, you know, the interest rates to rise, look, I'm hoping that's not going to happen. So I don't want to scare people. But if we saw interest rates rise, you know, by 2 or 3 percentage points, then, you know, we're never going to be able to keep up. Even if we start cutting spending on other programs, we're not going to be able to keep up with the debt payments. And that's why it would be a very wise thing, by the way, the federal government to sell 50 and 100-year bonds to lock in these lower interest rates, so we're protected from the potential of a, you know, interest rate shock. You know, the other thing is we've known for 30 years that the Titanic is headed to the iceberg in Social Security and Medicare. We know the American people are aging. I'm a baby boomer. There's 80 million of us. You know, in the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to stop paying taxes and we're going to start collecting all these government benefits. It's not going to work, right? There's just not enough young people to pay for the freight of all of these older people. So we need to reform these programs, maybe delay the retirement age a little bit as people live longer. We need to maybe look at ways that we can, with respect to Medicare, maybe higher income seniors could buy their own insurance. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be done, and there's slight changes that over time will make a big difference in terms of the cost of these programs.
Now, do you see the rising debt show a need for spending restraint? And
of course.
Will Congress get on board with doing something like that?
I fear that it might take another financial crisis before Congress acts. But then it might be too late.
Oh, wow. So what do you recommend?
I recommend we start making the changes right now. You know, the economy's booming right now. It's time to for the president maybe to make a speech to the American people. Let's get serious about this. Look, the American people know this is happening. American people are not stupid. They know that we're facing a big problem. Every speech I give, how many of you are concerned about the national debt? Every hand in the audience goes up. Americans are very aware of this. It's just that we keep electing politicians who don't want to do anything about it. Grow the economy, get spending under control, put Washington on a diet. That's the prescription.
Great. Steve Moore, thanks so much.
Thank you.